It's because when you're with your team and when you're with your broader organization, and also when you're in the broader culture of the nation that you live in, there are layers of trauma at each of those levels. And when we can't notice or feel those levels, we cannot adequately respond to them. And so we're left not fully understanding the situation that we're in. I love what the late author David Foster Wallace mentioned when he tells a story about two fish swimming in the ocean. And then later on, the two fish run into an older fish, and the older fish says, "How's the water, boys?" And the two fish go, "Oh, it's fine." And then later on, as those two fish are swimming, one fish turns to the other one and he's like, "What's water?" And what I'd want to say is that trauma is kind of like the water that we swim in. It's kind of like the unspoken and unresolved things that happen to us, not just in our personal life, but also as a team or even as an organization, and then broadly to our culture and then to our history. And so we are born into the post-traumatic situation of the world that we're living in. And they happen at all levels of society. And so from one perspective, it's a bit odd actually to not have a trauma conversation in the work that we're doing. And then the relationship that it has to innovation practices is that oftentimes we're wanting to solve a challenge or make a big decision. And so these different practices and processes in the innovation world, like a design sprint or like agile thinking, move us through a certain practice that take us out of our old habits that create amazing results. However, our ability to be tuned into the challenge and our awareness depends on the practice of being able to see, witness, and accurately respond to trauma that is there or wounding that is there. A lot of people say, well, what do you mean when you say trauma? Well, the Latin word for trauma just means the word for wound. So it's like certain wounding that we're not able to notice. It's kind of numb and under the surface. And what we do at Wholehearted is that we train teams to increase their capacity to become aware of what is happening in their team, in their personal selves, and then also within their organization, and then even broader into the culture and society. And you take that awareness and how it and of the challenge and how that manifests in your team when it comes to a particular challenge, and you are able to see things that you would never see otherwise. When you combine that level of seeing and awareness, you have this heightened ability to respond to a challenge or to a situation. And it also allows you to act with a deeper sense of wisdom and ethical understanding in your field or in your industry. Because it's actually through understanding our past wounding that still lives here within us, and that's as a culture, as a country, as a person, as a team, understanding that wounding and digesting it is what creates ethical wisdom and understanding and guides and directs the innovation that we produce. And because of the nature of innovation, it's like a huge download of inspiration and new insight. It naturally starts to rattle the unspoken trauma that rests there. And so being able to deal with that dynamic is so important. Otherwise, you have these situations where you have an innovation, maybe you just come out of a design sprint and you've got this great new idea, but it never really reaches as far as it could. Or you have a new innovative practice that you want to bring on as an organization, but you're unable to sustain or maintain the innovative practices you want to have. And it kind of feels like we're not sure what's going on. And one perspective that teams take is to focus on what are the mechanics that we're getting wrong with these innovation practices and how can we do that. That's important. I love focusing on that and looking at that. However, in our own study with clients, we find that often what's missing is this practice and development of capacity of awareness. So it's kind of like we need to upgrade the human operating system to notice what is operating in our human operating system, because that's what our teams are. And as we begin to understand those dynamics, not only do we have streamlined innovation practices that are sustainable, but we're able to unearth areas that we would never have unearthed otherwise. And we don't just say, oh, now we have a trauma-informed culture, but we actually have an organization that's healing, people that are healing, and contribute to the greater insight and healing of the culture, which produces greater beauty, greater insight, more manifestation of the things that we're wanting in our world today. So that's what we focus on here at Wholehearted, and get into the actual practices that do that. So thanks.